Hey everybody, welcome back to Abnormal Truth. We're going to do a video on one of the most abnormal places I'd say at least in the United States, definitely United States, I think. It's called Skinwalker Ranch. And this has been out for a while. There's been a major movie on it. Um, and just like all the other movies based on paranormal subjects, they won't even get like one sighting or event correct. They don't care about any of that. So I didn't enjoy the movie. Um, but what I've done is I've read. I wanted to know all the different things that happened at this ranch to the Sherman family and the researchers that ended up there later. And it's kind of limited. There isn't an unlimited amount of videos on YouTube about it. And basically, if you want to do some research on the Skinwalker Ranch, there's a couple of books out. There's a website or two that's really good, and I'll go ahead and tell you them now. Skinwalkerranch.org has a lot of info, and that's a really good site if you're looking into all what happened here at this ranch. Also, there's a couple of books you may want to get, and I just mentioned them because there's only it seems like I ran out of stuff of accounts that happen in that area, and it didn't take too long to run out. So getting the books will give you some more information. Hunt for the Skinwalker. Um, George Knapp and Colm Keller. They co-wrote a book together on it, and that's a good one. Colm was actually there as one of the researchers, so that's a good testimony. And then George, he's been covering it for a long time too, so that's a good book. There's another one I haven't read, Path of the Skinwalker by Ryan Skinner, and I've just seen some videos and interviews with him on it, and it seems like that he's a good researcher too, boots on the ground researcher. Um, that also brings to mind, the Sherman Ranch or the Skinwalker Ranch is southeast of Bullard, Utah, and Utah just has there were amazing things going on in ancient Utah, and it sounds like there's still amazing things going on, but they've found a lot of giants. I'm really into the giants. A lot of them were dug up in Utah, so to me, in ancient times, there was a lot going on in Utah. I almost wish I lived there so I could go to all these different places there. And anyway, I wanted to just give a shout out to Utah for being as abnormal as it is. Let me tell you why this place is incredible. And if you're into anything paranormal, I'm pretty much into anything that is not supposed to be within our reality. I usually go towards it. But this place has everything. Cryptozoology, ufology, actual beings. It just goes on and on. Poltergeist-like activity, and even like extinct animals that seem to come up at this ranch. So that's one reason. And when you have one place with all those kind of events happening in the same area, that's interesting, and you should be able to learn something from it, because there's a sneaking suspicion among a lot of researchers now that there's probably some kind of, we're all looking for like a unified theory on all these paranormal subjects, and so that's a good place to study. And another thing that gives it validity is that it's not only this Sherman family that said, "Oh, we moved in here and all these things happen." There's a history of all these occurrences in the area, and has been that way for hundreds of years. It's almost common knowledge. Just strange stuff happens, and this ranch seems to be in like the epicenter of it. Um, so you know what I mean? It gives it some validity because there was a history of that before they even moved there. Then another reason why is Robert Bigelow of Bigelow Aerospace actually ended up purchasing the ranch from the Sherman family, and Robert Bigelow owns an aerospace company, and he has a lot of money. And so I'm kind of conflicted on this guy. You know, I think it's cool that a billionaire would is interested in it enough to spend that money and buy that place and try to scientifically uh, record what's going on. Right? To me, that's pretty cool. He gets some cool points there. But on the other hand, um, I wonder if they're working with the government or they're hiding evidence. I'll talk about what the investigators there uh, basically say what happened once they got a hold of the ranch. And after a while, it died down for them. And so, anyway, those are the reasons why this place is special. And it's just fascinating to me. That's another thing, you know. Now that it's owned and patrolled by Bigelow, I guess you can't have everybody going up there anyway. I'm just glad somebody brought some scientists up there for once and tried to record what was going on. So I think I'm not going to regurgitate all the stories that happened there. I'm just going to tell a few of the ones I like, and if you think those are abnormally interesting, then you may go research more of them on your own. And I suggest looking up any like a George Knapp's videos on YouTube. They're mostly the ones that he's at like a conference or something, talking about the happenings at the ranch. And Colm Keller, I like to listen to his interviews also because he was there and witnessed phenomena. So there's also John Alexander. He's a retired colonel. He was also there. So those three guys and Ryan Skinner are some researchers that had boots on the ground and did a lot of work in that regard. So when I was talking about how the ranch has a history, paranormal phenomena going on, um, even the Ute Indians in the area, that's what they kind of snowballed all the different weird stuff that are happening as the Skinwalker. I won't get into that. I just don't feel like any human has the power to do all the things that are happening there. To me, a Indian witch doctor just doesn't fit the bill for what's happening here. But I'll never leave everything totally out of possibility. And so I believe I remember it as well. We won't go into that. Um, so the family's first day at the ranch. Now, from what I can tell, Terry Sherman, he is he's a hunter, he's a rancher. He can he does breeding of cattle. He's that kind of guy, real probably salt of the earth guy. And his wife lived there. Anyway, they moved there on their first day. I believe they had a child or two also, and I believe Terry's father was there too on their first day of moving in. Now, the first day when they moved in, they noticed some weird things about the house. Evidently, there was 4 entrances to the house, and at every entrance there was a huge stake to chain a dog to. So it looked like the previous owner had, and there's also confirmed that there was a lady living there by herself, and she had 4 huge dogs posted at each one of those doors. Furthermore, it seemed like all the cabinets and windows and shutters and all that were bolted. Everything had bolts on them. And it was probably because this lady was scared out of her wits when she was living there by herself. So that's kind of weird, but they're unloading a few of their cattle that they brought with them. I think they had some calves there, and they're kind of right there by the fence, and there's calves kind of poking their nose out of the fence, looking at them. And they noticed this huge wolf in the distance, and it starts zigzagging its way towards them. And this thing's huge. It's 3 times the size of a wolf, and I find it interesting that investigators went through and got all these pictures of wolves. And they showed them all these pictures of wolves, and they were trying to figure out which one it was. And the one they said that it looked the most like was a dire wolf, which has been extinct for a very long time. And anyway, so this dire wolf gets up to them, and they pet the wolf, and they can smell like a real musty smell. So this thing smells. It has a smell. And it's being really docile. Like I'm sure they didn't just sit there and pet it a lot, but a couple of them actually petted this huge wolf. And, wolves are very dangerous, and I can't imagine what a dire wolf would be like. I mean, that thing just could get you. Anyway, all of a sudden, they say the wolf leaps several feet and then starts chomping down on this calf that's got its nose kind of going through the gate or the fence. And the calf's screaming, and everybody's freaking out because this wolf just started walking down, and it was all nice and everything. It sees the calf, and it just pounces on it. So Terry, he grabs either a bat or a wooden axe handle. I hear a couple different stories there on that one. It doesn't matter, I guess. And he hits the wolf to no effect. Well, it doesn't even faze the wolf. So they go into the car and get a powerful handgun. And I've heard different calibers of the handgun, but it was like a 357, a major caliber handgun. This was not a 22. So the rancher shoots it, and it doesn't do anything. And so they go back in the house and get, his hunting rifle that's taking down freaking elks. This thing can take down way more than this wolf should be able to. So he fires one shot at it, and it's still messing with a calf, I believe. It's still chomping down on him. And it doesn't faze him. He doesn't scream or anything like that. And this guy can shoot. He's a hunter. The investigators there said they witnessed him taking down animals from far away. And it does turn around and look at him, though. And so that's all it does from a hit with a powerful handgun. That's pretty scary. But then he shoots him with that rifle, and he looks back at him, and he kind of starts to move a little bit, and he's not freaked out. The wolf isn't yelping or anything, and he shoots it again. And I believe that second shot is when the piece of fur and a little bit of flesh flew off. So this thing was a real object. They petted it. It smelled. One shot actually knocked a little flesh off of him. So that's an incredible story. That's just wild if that happened to you. And so the wolf starts walking off kind of back the way it came up the pasture. And I guess they decided that they couldn't let this wolf just walk, be around wounded like that. And they said it was easy to track because its prints were a good couple inches deep. The thing weighed a lot. And they end up losing, and the tracks disappear in like a river, or not a river, but a little creek, muddy creek. So that was their first day at the ranch that happened to them. Um, and that's not something you hear every day. Kind of basically a extinct animal just walking around and also acting strangely. So that's why I don't think it was actually a dire wolf. That's some entity taking on that form, which does tie in with the Skinwalker witch doctor kind of thing. Because you can't discount what the Indians have been saying for years. You really shouldn't. Um, and so that was the first day there. So you can see how this place is wild. And this family, they're not into UFOs and ghosts and anything. They're into cattle and thought they found their dream home. And you kind of look at the place, and it is nice. You get the mountain behind them, and it would look like a nice place if you were just there buying it. Um, so this family just starts getting tormented. A lot of their cattle die. There are cattle mutilations there too, which is an important part of the story. They had a cattle mutilation when I believe Terry and Gwen Sherman were close. They were on the property outside tagging calves, and they just tagged a calf, and I want to say they were gone for around 30 minutes. I hear a different time. A good 30 minutes they were gone. Not it was under an hour, and they weren't really gone. They were just on a different part of the property, not too far away from where they left this calf that they just tagged its ear. And they come back, and the calf is spread eagle on the ground and mutilated as it could be. And I won't go into that story, but it's in detail. But the way it was done, it's just impossible. Like, there's no tracks around it. There's no blood on the ground. And that's happened before. My family's actually had a cattle mutilation in the 70s in Huntsville, Texas, on their ranch. And that happens, but you never hear of where the people were kind of around. They didn't hear anything, they didn't see anything, and yet all these this calf was stripped clean. And then the weird thing is that it was laid out spread eagle, like a display, and everything moved with extremely sharp instruments. And so that's one of the most amazing cattle mutilations I've heard of. Again, another major weird thing that happens on our in our universe here, and that's another one that happened at this ranch. Okay. They had little poltergeist things happen to them. The Gwen, the one I remember was, she would, methodically, everybody has their regiment when they're taking a shower and stuff in the morning. She gets a towel, puts a brush on it, something else every time, and locks the door and takes a shower. And when she got out, that stuff was gone. So they had little paranormal, almost ghost-like kind of happenings. And there's that one isn't mentioned a lot. I don't think a lot of everything's known about. But they would wake up and see things looking at them through the window, and then it progressed to waking up and the things were standing in their room. And let me tell you, that's scary when you're asleep and something's in your room. That's just when you're the most vulnerable, and it will terrify you to have something in the room. One of the weird happenings that I liked, that I thought was extraordinary, um, was, I believe Glenn was at home alone one night, and everybody else was gone for some reason, and this UFO lands in their backyard. She can see a door start to kind of open on the craft, and you can see light in the craft once the door opened, and a very tall being with some kind of visor stepped out and kind of took a look around. Wow, right? Well, the being goes back into the UFO, and the UFO still has the door open, and it's lit very well on the inside, and it looks like he's sitting down at a desk, and he's looking at her and like typing or writing or like doing like a report or something on her. And she freaks out, and she calls her husband and says, "Get your bum back here," you know. um uh, I think the last straw that happened to this family is when three of their dogs died, and they saw their dogs chasing these blue orbs that they see a lot, and these orbs can put out fear. And I believe I felt this fear before. It's overwhelming. But anyway, these orbs can scare you just from their energy, you know. Anyway, he sees their dogs, and this is after all kinds of stuff had happened. They're probably at the ends of their wits, right? Um, but so these dogs start like trying to catch these blue orbs, and the blue orbs are playing with it like, you know, you can't catch me, you know, keep away. And so the dogs kind of go off in the distance, and he's either right out on his porch or just looking through the window because it's pitch dark out there. And all of a sudden he hears his dogs whelp, and that's all he hears, and they don't come back. And I really believe he was too scared to go out there, and so he didn't check on them that night. And so the next morning he gets up and goes to the place where he last heard the dogs, and they yelped, like a real short yelp, and there's like three greasy stains on the ground, and he thinks that's his dogs, and his dogs never came back. I think those greasy spots on the ground probably was his dogs. So this thing will kill animals, and I haven't heard of it ever seriously harming a human other than by scaring them. So that's something that's kind of strange. So at this time, after those dogs died, the Shermans wanted out, you know, and it's the same thing with every haunted house story. You know, why don't they just leave? Sometimes financially, it's hard to just leave. Um, you know, especially when you just have everything you have tied up into a property. So they're really needing some help at this time, and somehow they get a hold of Robert Bigelow, and Robert offers to buy the place from them. And I believe they moved like 20 miles away or something. So this is when the story kind of transfers to the scientist, the team of scientists that go onto the ranch. Now they say Terry did stay on after, you know, his family moved out. He was still there for a while trying to hunt this thing. So, he was still around. And so it seems like from what I can gather from the researchers, they don't give a lot of details. They just give a couple of examples of what happened to them. But whatever, and I believe this is probably just it seems like an entity. It seems like one thing doing all this. And it's pretty much either has to be that or it is a portal site where just all kinds of stuff comes through. Uh, but from what I can gather from the researchers that were actually there, um, the thing outguessed them. Every time they try to get measurements, okay, if this happens again, we're going to do this and this and this and this, and we'll catch it and be able to get data on it. And then that exact event never happens again. It's always one step ahead of them, showing incredible intelligence. So, very strange. And I'm trying to think of some other things. They have cameras up on these poles, and the something took destroyed the camera and ripped up the piping that had the wires in it and just destroyed that camera. And they had another camera focused that could see that camera, and they go back and try to see what it was, and they see nothing. So they constantly say it's like science lost. They I don't think they got too much unless they're lying about it. They did get some kind of data out of all this. But they again repeatedly say that the thing noticed that it was hunted now. So this thing was terrifying this family and just throwing all this stuff at them, probably to get them to move, I would think. But it does seem like there's some sportsmanship in that from whatever it is, the Skinwalker. It likes to play with people. Who knows? It could feed off of fear. But when the researchers got there, the thing knew that it was being hunted and knew that it was being filmed. So the game kind of changed, and the researchers themselves say that they weren't in control. It was obvious. The thing made it obvious and was playing with them, and anything they got to see was just a display for them. That's the sense they got. They were lucky that it didn't have to show itself if it didn't want to, and so take away what you will of that. I'm still trying to figure that out, and that's like the only kind of sense I'm getting off of the researchers that were there. And then they say it died off, which I can believe that. It died off a lot after a while. The thing probably got tired of playing with a scientist, and after a while, there were so little happenings there that all those scientists and stuff just didn't need a reason to be there, So, yeah, Skinwalker Ranch is one of the most interesting stories, and it just has a lot of things going on for it. You got a billionaire aerospace company owner that bought the place after it, and that's how much he believed their story. And so, yeah, go to skinwalkerranch.org. Do some research on it if you haven't already. This place is amazing. I don't think we'll ever hear too many more new stories out of this place, though. I think this is pretty much it. I'm not sure that if they find anything that they'll ever tell us, because they don't have to. Anyway, guys, I will see you later, and thanks for watching.